John Summers is the motoring historian. He was a company car thrashing technology sales rep that turned into a fairly inept sports bike rider. Hailing from California, he collects cars and bikes built with plenty of cheap and fast, and not much reliable. On his show, he gets together with various co-hosts to talk about new and old cars, driving, motorbikes, motor racing, and motoring travel.
Good day, good morning, good afternoon. It is John Summers, the motoring historian, today with Mark Gammie.
Hello.
I always open with a little anecdote, don't I? I always come straight to the point now to get, keep the pace up and all. But I always open with a little anecdote. This time, little anecdote, Mark features Ollie. Karting. We went and looked at some gas karting over the weekend. That all felt very, very real up at Sonoma. But earlier in the week, did his first Grand Prix at electric karting. Due to a weird set of circumstances, let me be candid with what they were. 2 sessions where they control these electric cars. They control them from the pits, how much power they've got. And so for the first 2 or 3 laps, you can't really do a fast lap because they don't wind the power up or the tires aren't warm, or I don't know quite. Anyway, whatever. All these fastest laps are always lap 5, 6 or 7. Well, on this occasion, one of the carts ran out of battery, so they came back into the pits. And whilst they were in the pit, and they came back into the pit. So there were 2 short qualifying sessions. So he didn't really lay down the best that he could do, and that meant that instead of being in the A main for the actual Grand Prix, he was in the B, but he was on the front row of the B. Mm-hmm. So at the start, the guy on pole chops over on him, and he touches the back of the car, loses momentum. Into the second turn, there's a chute down to the second turn. It's a hairpin. 3 abreast with the guy who's third, who's got a clean start. Out of that turn, they get through that turn cleanly, but out of that turn, Ollie loses the drag race and is third.
Yep.
Pole guy, little guy, couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old, is disappearing off up the track. Ollie is valiantly climbing all over the back of the third place guy. This goes on until lap 3. A clean pass is accomplished. Between laps 3 and 6, steady progress is made, catching the leader who's disappeared up the road. And for the last 6 laps, they weren't more than 2 feet apart all the time. Super clean racing. The other lads' parents couldn't contain themselves. I couldn't be looking at them because it was that year that Mansell was leading the Monaco Grand Prix, had to get tyres, came out and was all over the back of Senna, and Senna just had to make no mistakes. And Senna made no mistakes, but boy did Mansell try hard, and boy did Ollie try hard, and did he especially try hard with the back markers. But this other lad crossed the line a clear half a cart length ahead of Ollie. Both of them did their fastest lap on the last lap. Cool. Really cute podium ceremony, and parents shaking hands and general sort of warm feel all around. And I missed the punchline there, as I'm wont to do, was that in the Parc Ferme afterwards, the first thing Ollie did when he got out of his car, before coming over to us or removing his helmet, he took his glove off and shook hands with the guy who'd beaten him. And when I said that to him afterwards on the way home, he was like, well, yeah, I'd had a really good race. He'd given me a really good race. That's the best race I've ever had at K1. Awesome. So, proud parent there, more partly for the speed and the racing, but of course also for the gentlemanliness, which, feeds in then to one wanting to do it further. So, yeah, I'd already planned to sacrifice my Saturday taking him up to Sonoma to see what was happening there, but I was a whole lot more keen to do it on the back of the performance there. And up at Sonoma, it was this series KFX karting. It's definitely real. These are Rotax carts. I don't know how fast they go. The stuff online said they do 75 miles an hour. It didn't look that fast to me. It looked more like 35 or 40 to me. Maybe it's the nature of the circuit at Sonoma. Maybe they had the power turned down for what was meant to be a test day. But yeah, there were kids Ollie's age and size out there on the track with like adults, because there's 3 series. There's like a junior series, like a teen series, and then a masters series for old fogies, people older than 32.
I was watching World Superbikes today. My brother-in-law has got a Discovery Plus login, which is MotoGP and World Superbikes in the UK and other stuff. They can burn all the rest, as far as I'm concerned. It's MotoGP and World Superbikes that channel's for. And the art of the block pass. So you're not quick out, but you're quick in, and you position your bike such that the other guy can't come back out of you afterwards. Might be a karting thing as well, I suspect. So you might want to get him to have a little look, because you know what I mean? Often it's about carrying momentum, but for clean passes and stuff, sometimes you have to park it on the apex and be like, unlucky son, and then you're slow behind me out. Maybe he wants to do a bit of watching, a bit of WSB or a bit of MotoGP to see how those boys are doing their passes. He could probably learn a bit.
That's really good advice and really useful, because he's really good with the Racecraft, and these carts are so wide, especially the electric ones. Now he has found the way to pass people is the way guys like Hamilton or pass people, that you come up and firstly they see how fast you come up, and then secondly you do that thing where you like stand off and you look for an opportunity, and when you see it you lunge. And he's done a reasonable job at that over the years, to perfecting that and not getting frustrated. There was one race where he's really frustrated behind somebody, and I was like, that's the last race where you're going to be like that. In future, you're going to fall off and come back at him and find another way. Because what he won't do, he's like Dale Jr. He won't, he's not a rammer, not at all.
No, but selling the dummy can also be good. I'm fast here, and then being, especially because you remember that race where Alonso defended against Schumacher for ages, and Schumacher came in and came out again, and Alonso did a ridiculously fast in-lap in order to keep him behind. And then for the last 15, 20 laps, he was all over him, and he had a faster car, and Alonso would just be deliberately like quick down the straights and then deliberately slow into the chicanes. So Michael couldn't get him, and then was boxed up behind him, and then was inevitably, half a car length later onto the accelerator and couldn't get him. And you're right, it's the sort of, I just have to drive perfectly. You can't get me, even though you've got a faster car. Because the fluff on Mansell and Senna then was, if I recollect, from people like James Hunt watching it, he was never going to get him driving like that.
No.
He was all over him, but he wasn't all over him. He didn't try once per lap in the only place you've got and set everything up for that. He was all over him trying to do it in unusual places and all that sort of thing, which was super exciting. I remember the Grand Prix. But Hunt was like, yeah, great, but you ain't winning it. Although I think his also fallback position was, it's Monaco, you ain't winning anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Ollie had 6 laps, and afterwards, when we discussed the race, mourned that he hadn't had the 3 that he would have had there not been for the 50% Schmozzle. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm just at a stage where if I see him improving in every race, if I see his racecraft getting better, and if we're having fun, it's just...
Dude, I totally agree. And you notice what I didn't say is what if I was like, I don't know, some sort of hard-ass race coach. It's like, well, being happy with losing is like a loser's mentality. And like, what do you do in fucking celebrating second? Fuck off with all of that shit. I absolutely celebrate the sporting aspect of it. It should be fun.
So I went to Lodi yesterday and got the E55. It's the first time, I think, since probably last August it's run. I went down to Modesto and then came home, so I've probably put 200 miles on it since, and it's still probably needs a wheel bearing, but it runs really well. Rolled over 162,000 miles. I drove the most awesome road, California 130, from Patterson west to the James Lick Observatory, and then down into San Joe's, and then got on the Free Whistle and drove home. But basically, this observatory overlooks the valley. From the view at the top, you can look over the bottom of the bay and Silicon Valley. And I drove over there right as the sun was setting. It was not planned. It was absolutely awesome. The road is way too long. I mean, way too long for you to do it regularly. I have done it before once on that old CBR race bike when I took it out to storage in Salida. Just because of the way that the route was, I must have, but it's too long. It's like took absolutely hours, and it's switchbacks with sheer drop off. So you don't want to be doing it at night. It's gravel roads, but it's also stop for a pee at the side of the road, right? And not only do no cars come by, but there is no sound. And you're like, wow, I'm in the Bay Area, but I'm not. So that California 130 was really a find. But my other thought was, so that's the E55 running perfectly. Not sure if we talked about this before, but a colleague of Dana's at work has a 2019 E63S wagon. Lovely car, you say. Probably was before it needed a new motor at 40,000 miles.
What do you do to it?
Well, that's your thought, isn't it? It came from Carvana. It was used. It was, certified, if that means anything, from Carvana. The point is, this is not the first of these incidents with these recent E63 motors. I'm not slating Mercedes particularly. I am just saying that I do not believe modern cars are being made with the same, or cars for the last 10 years have been made with the same integrity of those that were made at the turn of the century. I used to struggle before, up until this last Pebble Beach. If you'd have said to me, peak car is the year 2000, I'd have said, no, it's the 1960s. I'm almost now agreeing with the Ed Bolians and the 40-somethings. And when I said that to Ollie, for Ollie, it's like, it's obvious, right? But think of it. This is I'm more of an older generation than me. We understand why the GTO is the most valuable car. We even kind of get Duesenberg. The Ed Bolian 40-something generation, they see McLarens as awesome, and they kind of get the GTO because they kind of get that previous generation. This is my conjecture.
Yeah, but I can sort of go with that. I mean, it's
peak car 2000. That's the question.
What's peak car? I mean, it's like peak car in what category? I mean, because they can't all be the same in the sense that, if a McLaren F1 is peak car, if you like, in terms of supercar or ultimate car, if you want, that's not an everyday car. I know it could be used every day, but it's not practical. You need other cars if you're going to have something like that. So then you want a peak car in your, hot hatchback territory. You want peak car in your saloon car territory. So there's a bunch of courses for courses here. The best car I've ever owned is that 2007 Nissan 350Z. It was the best car. In terms, it's the best car for Stu, my mate, who's owned one as well and has owned a bunch of other stuff. Last time I spoke to him, he said it was still the best car he'd ever bought as well. And he's had TVRs and all sorts of stuff. And I think what I'm saying there isn't so much it's the best car, is there's a balance for me, a bit like I was looking at some old photos that we'd taken on holiday, like in the US on road trips and stuff, but in the very early ones. And the camera phones aren't up to it. So the pictures you've got from there were taken on the same sort of like a spring day, beautiful sunshine, out and about in the nature. So there's great light, but the pictures just aren't as good a res. And I think it's the same with cars as well in terms of the overall experience. Because for me, what did that have? It had basic traction control, a nice stereo, and just really good rear bias mechanical grip. You remember that when we were coming off the M50 bit up out of Wales under the roundabout on the M5 and then on the up ramp so we were coming on from 9 o'clock and then going round and then going on to the M5 going south towards Bristol at 6 o'clock. And I remember it was late at night and it's a well lit, really wide, sort of 3-lane wide piece of A road, or 2-lane wide at least. There was nobody there. And I came round it pretty quick on coming into the roundabout because you've got a massive long sight line. There's no one there. Was able to come onto the throttle really early because it's uphill on the on-ramp. You were surprised at how early and how hard I could and committedly I could come onto the throttle and just stay on it. The Sierra was an amazing car, but didn't have the horses but it had fundamentally honest performance, honest sort of chassis characteristics. But that taken to another sort of the exponential up level of usable everyday, practical, not eating you at the petrol tank. delivering you, 300 plus horsepower, although the geezers that modified them for me reckon they've never produced actual 300 horsepower, but it was a chunky, torquey power, and it really sort of gave you what you want. So again, you can go from there, and the earlier back you go, you start to lose some of the aids. So how much aids do you want? Do you want a Caterham from the 1950s with nothing, or do you want everything like today with parking assist and lane assist and fucking arse wipe assist and all the other bullshit that you have to turn off every time you get in the fucking car? There's a happy medium somewhere, and I think it's very personal what that is.
Yeah, well, and peak car, you're right, is somewhere in the middle of that, and I guess it's toggling to where that is. Of course, the car I had throughout the time that you had that Nissan 350 is that '01 Bullet Mustang that I've done sort of similar miles in that
I've done 170,000 miles in that Nissan.
Probably not as many as you've done in that. I've done about 75. Yeah, you've done a lot more in that Nissan. But interestingly, about the claimed 300 horsepower not being a real 300 horsepower, I remember when we did a Grand Canyon drive not long after I had the Mustang, and I remember you commenting then that the seat of the pants feel was not a million miles away, which I'd expected it to be because that was a stated 275 horse. So I'd expected that to feel less than the Nissans. And I wondered if it was a bit down to the V8 torque with that.
Yeah, it could be. Because I think that was on the trip when we went to was it the Southern Rim Job Grand Canyon?
It was, yeah. I actually have, I don't know where they are. I have photos from that trip. I remember picking you up at the airport and driving out of the airport and being like, fuck Vegas, and finding a pizza place on the edge of Vegas and eating pizza on the trunk of the car before the adventure commenced.
My only comment on there in the Grand Canyon, having done both banks, if you like, the Southern Rim is better because you can drive along it for a bit. Whereas Northern Rim, it's pretty, but you have to drive along a bullshit, slow, windy road that could be good, but it's dead-endy, turnaround stuff. The bits before are quite pretty, especially coming over the hills and stuff. Yeah, it's like you get there, you walk through, and there's loads of tats for sale, and then you get to view it, and then you go away again. Whereas Southern Rim Job, you could drive around. Hidden joke there, obviously, but you could drive around for like miles and stuff and get your own sort of hang on the edge of just chill out on your own quiet Grand Canyon rather than having to share it with thousands of other people.
Well, of course, the other thing we did on that trip, which I've forgotten all about, was the helicopter flight.
Oh, yeah.
And we should say this, that as lovers of Dungeons and Dragons and my own D&D campaign, very much based on Robert E. Howard and Conan the Barbarian, for the helicopter to dive into the Grand Canyon and it be playing the music from Conan the Barbarian at the same time, that really was a memorable moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was cool.
Awesome and a memorable moment.
But yeah, we were on peak car, weren't we, before we wandered off into Dragons and the Grand Canyon.
We were on peak car, yeah, but all right. So, but let's come back to where peak car isn't now, is it? For sure.
No,
I mean, I guess. But did we think of that in 2000? I wonder if we did, because back in 2000, if you'd have asked me what I wanted, like you could have anything, what would you? I'd have said a gunmetal M5.
Yeah, I mean, I think you like me, like most motoring people, if you're honest with yourself, would probably there will be some underlying favourites. Some sort of, AC/DCs and Slayers and stuff that stay with you permanently, if you like. But there's also going to be a new favourite every 18 months as well, in a greater or less extent. Because, you would say that. But I think you would have also said at one point a Diablo SV in orange and stuff like that.
I still might say that.
Well, exactly.
Probably.
And again, it's difficult, isn't it? Because like modern days, you could absolutely argue. I watched Chris Harris's YouTube channel's review of the F80, the new Ferrari Ultra car. And I think I sent it to you in Newton. If you haven't seen it, go to YouTube and watch it. It's one of the best drone shot videos I've ever seen of stuff. The new drone pilot he's got is something special. He's rinsing it around Fiorano in massive tail slides, and the drone is hovering 20 feet above the rear tailpipe as he's following him through corners. The final shot, for me, the pièce de résistance, and I salute you on this, Chris. If I ever meet you, I'll shake your hand for it. His final review of the car is him standing, and it's a shot that's obviously Ferrari have told them about, they know about in the hills, where you can get out and have the car and just the beautiful Italian hillsides behind with nothing else much there. And the whole video, it's like a 2-minute sign off where he talks about the car, and the drone flies in a perfect circle all the way around him. So you never see any camera people. He's just talking to the camera the whole time, turning and talking to the drone all the way round. And it's a really beautifully, the whole thing is just art personified. But if you take that car, I don't like the looks of it much. I think it's a bit ugly. It doesn't win in against McLaren W1 in the 10-year-old boy poster stakes. It's losing hands down. But Harris's review, and I've seen it, I've read a few others, is that it is unbelievable that they have taken what is essentially a hypercar and turned it into something you could genuinely, if you were Ross Perot's Nepo baby, spend all your time driving around in. And maybe that's why it's not so good looking, so that you can get away with that. That's so much tech. I mean, it's going to have a 20,000 mile service interval, is it? So much tech.
It's going to have a 20,000 mile what?
No, I say it's not going to have a 20,000 mile service interval, is it? There's so much tech. Everything in it is tech and tech and tech. That's too much for me. Well, where do you pair back to? Because, I think you would accept that the go-karts and the Caterhams and the sort of, the sort of cars of our childhood, if you like, where TCS, quoi? Well, I mean, no. What's that?
Well, I remember when traction control first came out, feeling like it was somehow not the real thing. It was almost like a different version of automatic. It was very similar to automatic transmission. It was like you weren't really involved, but it was almost like, I tell you what, it was the beginning of your mum riding with you in the car and saying, "Are you sure you want to do that? Just slow down there." It was the beginning of that, wasn't it? It really was. It had sort of been there passively before with seatbelts, even with understeer, but it really came with traction control. The whole notion that it could be switched off, I was relieved the fact that it could be switched off because it meant you could still smoke the tires. I also thought of how sort of pointless it was, and it frightened me that the only reason you could switch it off was because they knew that people like us like to burn the tires, and they knew that the motoring writers would slate the cars, and therefore people wouldn't buy them if they left that on. If that was how we felt about traction control, why the fuck have we got it? Like, fuck it off.
Well, yeah, but I will say, I'm not
saying I feel like that about traction control.
No, for sure. But
I drove a piece of freeway just yesterday where, as I came onto it, I was like, oh, there is an undulation in the middle of this on-ramp, because in the Mustang with traction control and terrible tires and a slightly damp road, I had a moment where the traction control saved me. And this is a long time ago. 5 years ago, I was driving over to Lodi. It was whilst I was living here. It wasn't ages and ages ago. It was fairly recently. The tires that were bald have only just come off the car kind of thing. But it was a while ago. They were on the car bald for a really long time. I should say not bald, but just, you could see the tread pattern and kind of feel it, but not completely. It was like illegal. Kind of. And it's rear tires, and it's a Mustang, and you expect it to be a bit loose, and I drive slow and all of that, right? So, and the ones at the front have got good tread for the aquaplane, and that's the way I tend to structure the rear wheel drive cars I have. But I was going somewhere with that.
TCS saved you.
Oh, undulation.
Yeah, dude, I can visualize it well.
Live rear end, the TCS, and the thought was that in a Fox Mustang, the previous generation, the same car basically, but just with a different body, I would have bloody spun.
Dude, I mean, when we drove on my stag do when we went to the Nürburgring, I left the TCS on, and when we went out for the first lap, and you remember how wet it was, I had Matt in the car. And on about corner 10 or 12, through that first little twisty complex, the back stepped by about 18 inches, 2 feet. And I remember thinking I was going slow enough that I didn't think that was going to happen. And it just sort of stayed out. And I remember thinking, don't overcorrect. Just don't overcorrect. I don't want any snapback shit. Don't overcorrect. And it came back in. And I remember thinking at the time, where were you, TCS? I think, to be fair, TCS was going, saving your ass right there. It just eased out of the gas. I was steady on the gas, but having that safety net is quite nice. And on the flip side, the only thing I would say is if you look at bikes, anything that goes off-road, if it's going to be serious off-road, you need to be able to turn the traction control off anyway, and you need to be able to turn the ABS off often if it's going to be a proper dirt bike off the road. So they have to be switchable. And if you look at the other end of the scale, on the latest Panigale V4S crazy apeshit track weapon, which you can obviously buy and drive on the road because that's motorbikes. It's got effectively sort of Ducati's answer, as I recollect, Ferrari's side slip control sort of thing, where you can have it so that coming onto the straight, you can just rip the gas. And if you get a little bit of slide out shimmy, it's like, yeah, no problem, guy, I got you. And it's just delivering its 230 horsepower, like Banzai style anyway, as you get onto your heaven-sent track day at Mugello. So you can deliver thrills with it as well. I accept that isn't really relevant to cars so much. But I wouldn't be surprised if, the Ferrari will certainly have it. So you see what I mean? It's just in bikes is so much more accessible cash-wise for everyone.
It was ever thus.
But yeah, I mean, look, safety aids, broadly cool. Nanny state aids, broadly shit. And they're always going to overlap. And regulation in the EU has certainly pushed you to more one way. So yeah, I'm less and less interested in anything new. The only car I can think of in the last 5 or 6 years that I've thought, or more than that probably now, that I actually, more than that because they want a second gen of it now, that I thought I would genuinely like that's been come out that's pretty cool, was from, of all people, Toyota, and it's the Yaris GTR, which is the little pared down 2-seat, 2+2, because like the rear seats, so like the roof's been squished down, 4-wheel drive rally version of it with like 280 horsepower. That the press and I like the look of, and the reviews were all 5-star reviews. All. That's kind of exciting because it's, again, taking the tech and turning it into sort of exciting Subaru Evo from our youth kind of excitement, 4-wheel drive trickery for you to go faster on B roads in wet Wales. That appeals to me. I like the idea of that. Although Wales is increasingly becoming a 30 or 20 zone carpet across the country. So, maybe not Wales.
You still have the M2, or is that gone?
No, the curse. It's going soon. So I've got the last couple of bits to do it to get done it, then I can just get shot of it. Oh, that's the other thing about this new place. It's got they've got a gravel bit path down the side of the house with a side gate and a garage. I mean, at a push, I reckon I could get 6 cars on the drive and 1 in the garage.
Your neighbours will love you.
Well, but the thing is, like, it doesn't impinge on them because it's down the side of our house. So
let's do this flipping hot hatches.
Yeah, no, we should.
I did on this pod a what should I buy from 25 years ago. We were talking about peak car being 25 years ago. There is a market for these hot hatches. And I believe that Cars and Bids and so on, they've done the TVRs. They're all excited about the Euro spec Mercedes and Volkswagens and all of that. We don't need to do that. Go to France, sniff me out AX GTs and 405 MI16 4x4s. Sniff them out for us. Fill a shipping crate and I'll sell them here.
Why don't you, because I've got a bit of time at the moment in terms of searching for stuff online, why don't you dig out that spreadsheet we've got, I've got it somewhere, where we scoped out like best cars to buy from eras and stuff. And then let's just highlight the sort of stuff we're going to search for. Because I can just use it as a sort of spreadsheet. If we share it up on the link thing, we can just use it as like stuff we find and just shove costs in there. And I mean, I'm not in any financial position to buy anything at the moment, but I mean, I am available as an agent to perform these tasks. So if we have the information, then we can take a decision from there, can't we? Because I think there's going to be some stuff that we think will be there that won't. And I think it's going to be idiosyncratic stuff that's our best win, if I'm honest. Again, and also the one where there was a lot of them. So like Clio 172s, Clio 182s, those sort of things. There was a lot of those things. And they were cracking hot hatches. They were always like 4.5, 5-star hot hatches. And they're small and cute, and there's enough of them that you can get parts for them. Whereas I think finding things like 205, 309 GTIs, they've all gone. You're too late for that. And I think even now you probably find stuff like, you'll still find the dog-eared 182 trophies and things like that. But they're all still going to be like 15 grand now. Whereas I think the standard 182s, or maybe even if you can find one a 182 Cup, those things you can do. And you could always remember, you could always do the Cup chassis on the standard 182. It was like a 1,500 quid option. So if it was selected, it's selected. And that was the big uplift. That was why it was the uplift on my one, that trophy I had, which was a fucking brilliant car.
I think here's a sweet spot. There is a flip side to, how in Sweden they don't care whether the muscle car's got 2 doors or 4 doors, whereas here in America, like a 4-door car is always a parts car, whereas they just have a completely different attitude. At home, the difference between a Fiat Strada 105 TC and 130 TC is night and day. right? It really matters. The difference between an XR3i and a RS Turbo is huge. Here, that difference, there's not the same. And what I'm struck by, the cars and bids guys, they like the bassy ones. A 405 diesel wagon? Nobody's ever seen one of those before. That PDI motor never goes wrong, which Americans absolutely love. The notion of the thing that, that would be.
That's interesting.
Yeah, those kind of cars would be something that now the challenge with all of the things that I know about, of course, is it all exists in this sub $5,000 marketplace. And I think shipping wise, by the time you paid for the flat costs of, the shipping and the importation fees and that kind of stuff, you need to be looking at 10, 15, 20 grand cars rather than
look, realistically, if you bought a $5,000 car and shipped it, you're going to need to sell it for 10 to 12, but they don't exist over there.
Yes.
So I think you could, realistically.
Yes. The only way you can justify that kind of value is if yours is the only one. That's why once I saw TVRs on cars and bids, I was like, it's over now. It needs to be something weird. Like, people had Peugeot 505s here. So like a 405 wagon, something like that. Diesel, all of that. Isn't there's a European website of used cars where you can surf like across Europe wide. It's like Auto Trader for Europe. I can't remember the name of the app. I'm looking at it on my phone now.
Auto Scout 24? It's like yellow highlighted and then it says Scout 24, but on so.
Yeah, that's like Europe wide. And for American market, that's better because they're left-hand drive cars.
Well, yeah, absolutely. How old do they need to be?
25 years. Yeah, because everything's going to go the way of minis, isn't it? The way classic minis are like, you can't fucking look at one for less than $5,000 and you were like, what? I remember when those bits of shit were like 500 quid. The other thing with them is they all get gussied up in a totally unrealistic way. Everyone you look at has got like some G-jaw on it that it didn't originally have. They don't look like they looked like in period. This is a pet peeve of mine. It's a bit like old Peter Mullin, isn't it, who did the Bugattis. Like, other people had done the Italian cars. You're not going to touch the German factories for their own collections of cars. But the French stuff, that was an open field. And because Renault and Peugeot have sort of been here but haven't been here for ages, there's a sort of enough of a thing there.
Okay, so there's a bunch of Clio Williamses. I did it by price, high to low, and they're all in the €25,000 range. But there's a bunch of them. If you could make money knocking out Clio Williamses in the US for, say, 40 to 50,000, then there's a bunch we could ship over.
That feels pretty steep.
It is a limited edition Uber hot hatch of the hot hatch.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to see what Americans are paying for Delta Integrales. They're that horse that's already left the building, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I understand.
It's funny with those Delta Integrales, I don't want to be funny or offend people. And as you know, I bloody love Lancia. And I just want to say that Di Virilio book, Lancia at the Centre, is probably the single best car book ever produced. I mean that absolutely. Jeffrey Goldberg, the book's like $200. Spend it. If you love car books, Di Virilio, Lancia at the Centre is really, I love Lancia, right? I mean, Skyline or Integrale? I mean, are you kidding me? Pasty or steak dinner? Like, the pasty's nice if you're hungry on the street in the rain, but thanks, I'll sit in with a steak dinner and I will have red wine with it. Thank you very much. That's how I feel about Skylines. I mean, they don't have the best interior. It's maybe a bit of a, Toby's pub kind of a state.
They're so cool, Skylines. They're so
right,
fucking cool.
Which era is yours then? If you have just won the lottery and my son has said to you...
I'm probably doing an R34 or something like that.
I love the Ken Marys, but in this instant, if it was my money, I think the R34s are so undervalued. So undervalued. R33s are as well.
It's always been tough to find a clean one, isn't it? But, like, still.
Who cares? I'm not about.
Well, I mean, agreed.
To me, it's like Sierra Cosworth. I want one that has a story and that's been done in a tasteful way. If it was wrecked, years ago. And if now it's been rebuilt and inspected and at shows and, I can see how the shut lines are, I'll take that car over the no stories.
Yeah, no, I know what
you
you
get
mean.
so much more car for your money if you do that.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, I mean, it's
about picking the right car. I'm not saying I want some tastelessly modified thing, and there's plenty of those out there.
In a really Japanese doing their own thing, their own way. Gotta salute them. For me, it was the first sort of time they really had sort of proper impact in cars. I mean, you could argue other cars, that one that Bond drove that Sean Connery couldn't, they had to have the roof down because his head wouldn't fit in it. He was too tall.
The first $1 million Japanese car. Yeah,
that's a cutest pop car. I mean, there's no.
You rate that, do you?
Oh, it's pretty. I don't know whether it's any good, but it's pretty.
So this is the Toyota 2000S or S2000 or something. It's sort of the same name as the Honda, but that was the first $1 million Japanese car. That, believe it or not,
and you can see why. It's a pretty little car, but I wouldn't have one.
It's a Crown inline six with a Yamaha cylinder head on it. The wood interior was done by Yamaha as well. So what I always say about those, whenever I see them, is the best bits of Yamaha, aren't they? Not Toyota. I mean, good for Toyota hiring Yamaha, but...
Oh, yeah, for sure. And look, people who might sneer at Yamaha. Remember, Yamaha make pianos, and they're some of the most beautiful pianos.
I'm not sneering at Yamaha for that at all.
No, you're not. I think anybody who might be.
I'm saying the best bit of Toyota is that Yamaha motorcycle cylinder head on that Toyota Crown motor. It's really... and I guess I've got a soft spot for Yamaha in engines. I never buy Yamaha motorcycles, but... apart from the Zuma, which is like the exception proves the rule. But you remember that black Ford Mondeo? You remember it extremely well that we had. This had the Duratec V6. That was a Yamaha design motor. That V6 was a Yamaha design motor, and that had no oil in it. Would still rev to $6,000, and we put $6,500. We put 6,000 miles on that car.
Bomber.
Fine. And, rode it hard at 160,000 miles, and that Yamaha motor was just coming back for more. So I've plenty of time for Yamaha. Of course, the other Japanese car from that period, right, that I rate more than that Toyota is the Mazda Cosmo. Do you know that car?
Rings a bell.
Yeah, it's a sort of swoopy, science fiction-y shape.
I know, I was going to say, again, with Mazda, I've got space for Mazda in my life on the basis of their ruthless pursuit of totally different engine tech. We're going to do Wankel engine. No one else is going to do it. We're going to do it anyway. And then we're going to deliver you an RX-7. Yeah. And so they eat oil. Come on.
Yeah. I'll take Mazda in a moment. I just want to go back to Toyota quickly. I just want to say, I have slated the 2000 there or whatever that $1 million Bond car. But I do want to say the Toyota 7 sports car that they built, which wasn't really competitive, it only raced domestically, that's one of the most beautiful cars ever designed. Love that shape. Have a little.
It's just like a wing with a big wing on a sticks behind it.
Yes,
the white one.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a great car. Obviously, I've raced that in Gran Turismo. It's a great car.
Yes. So we're gonna and the Supra in Fast and Furious and all that. Toyota. Let's credit where credit is due with Toyota. And for you whippersnappers, Carlos Sainz, the father. Sainz rallied with Toyota, didn't he? With those Celica GT4s, that's the one. And young'uns, you can spot the GT4 because it's not just got the hood scoop. It's got the hood scoop with the hole in the side for the intercooler or whatever it was.
Yeah, and the extra exhaust at the back. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cracking cars, GT4s. And of course, that Sega Virtual Rally game, of course, which was in many an arcade, 2-player sitting side by side. One of them was a Celica GT4. Was it VR Rally?
It was
on the Dreamcast.
Did you ever drive a real GT4?
No. I would have liked to have done.
I never drove a real GT4. I mean, was that one of those or an Integrale? I'd probably have the Integrale if I had to choose.
Yeah, well, me too. I didn't last after
I'm not as excited about those Integrales. I mean, I've already said that. But if I compare how I feel about that versus something like Sierra XR4i, or let alone a Sierra Cosworth.
Agreed.
Mark, thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Drive Through.
It's always empty, always looking up to stargaze candlelights that lead me to you. Don't tell me that our time is up.
This episode has been brought to you by Grand Touring Motorsports as part of our Motoring Podcast Network. For more episodes like this, tune in each week for more exciting and educational content from organizations like the Exotic Car Marketplace, the Motoring Historian, Break Fix, and many others. If you'd like to support Grand Touring Motorsports and the Motoring Podcast Network, sign up for one of our many sponsorship tiers at www.patreon.com/GT Motorsports. Please note that the content, opinions, and materials presented and expressed in this episode are those of its creator, and this episode has been published with their consent. If you have any inquiries about this program, please contact the creators of this episode via email or social media as mentioned in the episode.